The Spurs stunned the Clippers with a late 14-3 run to win in Los Angeles last night. The Clippers led by 7 with less than 6 minutes left in the game. But poor shooting and 2 costly Blake Griffin turnovers proved costly for Los Angeles. This season, the 4-3 Clippers are near the bottom in the NBA in defense, allowing nearly 102 points per game. Stephen A., you picked the Clippers to actually win the NBA title. So how do you explain early season struggles?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to engage in the predictable the way my compatriot Skip Bayless does. That's why I didn't pick the Spurs. We know that they're the reigning defending world champions and they're a better team. I'm just hopeful that the Clippers will be better because I'd rather be in L.A. than the Riverwalk. I'm not going to lie about it. But now as we get to that, let me be very clear about what we're witnessing from the Los Angeles Clippers, particularly last night. Skip, your boy Kawhi Leonard is big time. It's just that simple. He's big time. 26-10 doesn't even begin to explain his impact because what he was able to do defensively in the waning moments against Chris Paul spoke volumes, which brings me to the Clippers to answer the question directly. When you look at the Clippers, the biggest reason for their early season struggles, as far as I'm concerned, is that they don't have a lockdown defender at that small forward spot. They don't have a bona fide scorer at the small forward spot. It puts more pressure on Chris Paul, and because it puts more pressure on Chris Paul, Skip Bayless, it changes everything for Doc Rivers. Again, Chris Paul is a big-time point guard, but he's relatively miniature as it pertains to height. So what did they do last night? It was Kawhi Leonard. What did they do when he played against Portland? They put Nicholas Batum on him. What did they do when they played against Golden State? They put an Andre Iguodala on him or a Klay Thompson on him. Guys who had him by about 4, 5, or 6 inches and really can defend the wings. And when you have that going on, what that does is it forces Doc Rivers to try to make some kind of adjustment. So let me put somebody else out on the floor that they've got to pay attention to offensively so they can't defend Chris Paul. So let me put Jamal Crawford in the starting lineup. Here's the problem with that. Jamal Crawford, you know how much I love his game. He can boogie on anybody, but he's not the most stout defender in the world. So he becomes a defensive liability, and then you're compromised. So these are the kind of problems that the Los Angeles Clippers are having because at that 3 position, they don't have a Kawhi Leonard. They don't have an Andre Iguodala. They don't have a Klay Thompson. They don't have a Nicholas Batum. I think, Skip Bayless, they need to strongly go out, whether it's a Kenneth Faried out of Denver, whether it's an Iman Shumpert, although he would be relatively undersized. And I know that, obviously Mike Woodson, the former Knicks coach, is an assistant coach on that bench right now, so I don't know how that would work out. But I think an Andre Iguodala, an Iman Shumpert, for example, a Kenneth Faried, the Clippers are in desperate need of somebody like that will not allow teams to sit there and just take a big guard and put him on Chris Paul without anything to worry about. That's the problem that's going on right now. They've got all season. They got till the trading deadline to try and fix that. But clearly they're going to need more from Matt Barnes. They're not getting it right now, and they need to upgrade to some degree because he's really good coming off the bench. I'm not sure he's your guy as the starter. They're going to need more help in that regard because when you don't have that small forward spot to worry about, Skip, then they're able to take the opposing small forward who otherwise would have to worry about that guy. Now you don't have to worry about him, so you can take him and put him on Chris Paul, and that's where you've got your problems.
Now, wait a second. Did you just admit on national TV that you only picked the Clippers out of hopes that you'd be in L.A. for the finals?
No, I'm just joking. Stop it. Well, I picked the Clippers because I think from top to bottom, they're talented enough to pull it off. I think this could be their year, but they've got problems with the smoke, with the wing defenders being able to defend Chris Paul.
Well, let me be clear. But you're not backing off your pick just yet, right?
Not at all.
Okay, you're still hanging
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, it's very early, but I do see issues with your Clippers and your pick. Because I was dumbfounded late last night when my Spurs, who are not a very good basketball team right now, stole that game in L.A. They did not play very well, my Spurs. They shot, once again, 2 for 19 from the three-point line. After leading the NBA in three-point shooting last year, my Spurs, they are now second to last in the league, even though it's early. In three-point shooting. Only Sacramento is shooting the ball worse from 3 than my San Antonio Spurs. Clearly, they miss Patty Mills, number 1, Tiago Splitter, number 2, and Marco Bellinelli, number 3, all of whom are hurt. But, Stephen A., thank you very much for bringing up Kawhi Leonard, because for the first time really in Kawhi's young career. Popovich pulled him aside before the game and said, I want you to be selfish tonight. I want you to shoot it as much as you touch it. And Kawhi actually looked for his shot last night in ways he's never looked for his shot, and had career highs and shots taken and points and blah, blah, blah. And as you point out, what I was most impressed with watching the game was he locked down Chris Paul. Occasionally he locked down Jamal Crawford when he had to. He stole the ball 3 times in the fourth quarter. The Spurs stole it 6 times in the fourth quarter. Boris Diaw, explain this to me, that big caboose of his, he did a heck of a job on Blake Griffin last night, which brings me to the Clippers stats. I know this is early, but these are all bad sign statistics. Your Clippers are last in the NBA in rebounding. They're last in second chance points, obviously off offensive rebounds. They're 26th in points in the paint, and they're allowing the 4th highest opposing field goal percentage. Those are bad combination stats. That means that last week when Doc Rivers lambasted this team, remember he was just scathing in his public criticism of his team. He called it soft. He said we don't play hard. He blasted the team meeting that they called, saying they were just blowing smoke at each other, that it didn't mean anything, didn't get them anywhere. And last night, albeit against what's left at this point in my Spurs early in the season, they should have won that game, and they should have closed that deal, and they did not. So where's the Chris Paul leadership? Again, 10th year in the league, and I think there's some pressure on Chris to live up in the postseason. He is still CP0. He has 0 rings. He better put at least can he become CP1? CP2?
Skip Bayless, I don't, again, we're going to get into this argument all day long till the cows come home. I don't hold the level of accountability to a Chris Paul the way I would hold it to a LeBron, a Kobe, people like that, because when you have the ability to put the ball in the hole, that is different from being an orchestrator and a floor general. The responsibilities are different. And that's just the way that I look at it. I also believe in the Clippers because I believe in Doc Rivers. I believe that Doc Rivers is consistently one of the top 3 coaches in the game of basketball. And the fact that these problems are happening early don't concern me, because if there's anybody that I know would fix it, he's one of the top 3 coaches in the world that I know can and will do it. So I'm not remotely concerned in the slightest. I love the fact that he got on them. I love the fact that they're feeling it. I spoke to Chris Paul about a week or so ago. He's feeling it. He understands what's going on. His whole thing is that it's championship or bust. That's his mentality, and that's how he's thinking for the rest of his career, because he understands he's been in this league long enough where certain things have got to happen. It's just that simple. But at the same time, you have to look at the requisite parts around you. I can't sit there and look at the San Antonio Spurs like you're saying and say, well, you know what, they're playing a bad game. And those, you know good and darn well that it does not matter with the San Antonio Spurs. It's when the moment arrives, do they know what to do and how to get it done? And nobody knows it better than them. So as long as they're around, in order to beat the San Antonio Spurs, more times than not, you have to blow them out where the game is not even close when it counts. When it counts, the San Antonio Spurs are usually going to close the deal because they've been playing together for so long. They just know what to do. It's instinctual. They don't have to think about anything. They don't have to learn anything. All they have to do is follow instructions because they've been here and they've done that. The Clippers obviously have to get over that hump, and we all understand that. But I also think we have to look at their personnel and see what they're working with. Chris Paul, no matter how good he is, Skip, it's going to be pretty difficult for him to sit there and get around a dude that moves and defends the way Kawhi Leonard does, that has him by about 7 inches. Yeah. That's a pretty tall task to ask for somebody. It just is what it is.
So can you conclude, bottom line, that so far Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are not playing very hard? Is that fair to say after the stats?
I'm not going to say no. I'm not questioning their effort. I'm questioning their productivity. I don't think they've played very efficiently or effectively. But I don't look at DeAndre Jordan or Blake Griffin and feel like they're lollygagging and they're not playing hard. I look at them and I say to myself, especially as it pertains to Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, to me, it should be a top 2 candidate for league MVP honors in terms of the expectation. He's not living up to it at this moment. I have every confidence that he would, but this is a dude with superstar ability. You are supposed, no matter how skilled and savvy Boris Diaw is, you are supposed to abuse him. He is not supposed to be able to check you. Now, obviously, having Tim Duncan and Thiago Splitter and those boys on the front line backing you up helps, because Blake can't just post up and go to the hole. But in the end, you've got to find a way to abuse that matchup, because if Blake Griffin doesn't take advantage, then the help that Chris Paul has is minimal, and the Clippers aren't going anywhere.
Okay, but Blake Griffin has been called soft, sometimes on this show and sometimes by opponents, right?
Well, he has, but in fairness to him, that was the past. He wasn't called soft as the season waned last year, and he shouldn't be called soft now. A couple of years ago, that was legitimate, and he's still sensitive about it, and that's his problem. He'll get over it. But last year, I don't say that I don't feel that way about him. This year, I don't feel that way about him, but you just have to be more efficient. But I don't look at him and feel like he's soft, and I clearly don't feel like there's a lack of effort. I can't imagine anybody being on the court for Doc Rivers and getting away with giving a lack of effort. You won't last. He won't tolerate that.
Yeah.
He won't do it.
After the
I don't
game,
even think
Chris
about effort
Paul
when it comes to Doc Rivers.
said that the Spurs basically gave us a clinic on how to close out a game.